Hi, Jenny. Thank you so much for coming here with us. We're here today to discuss your professional development workshop at the European Evaluation Society conference in Copenhagen. So your workshop is called Equitable Data Storytelling, and I'm really excited to learn more about it. Could you first start with perhaps introducing yourself and give us a glance of your specific areas of interest?
Absolutely. I am so excited to join the rest of the EES crew in Copenhagen this year. And I think the Equitable Data Storytelling workshop is going to be not only a lot of fun, but I'm hoping that people who join will learn something new and cultivate new learning together. So, a little bit about myself. My name is Jenny. I'm the founder of Pivot Data Design, a consulting firm based in Chicago, Illinois, in the United States. And one of our kind of key drivers to this work is really bringing creative energy to making data intriguing and impactful while helping the partners that we work with transform the way that they communicate their story. So really reground our data storytelling in equity, and we teach methods of data storytelling that can visually emphasize the most important points while being culturally responsive.
Thank you
So
so
that's a
much.
little bit about Pivot Data Design. Yeah.
And the theme for this year's conference is actions and shifting paradigms for challenging times. The COVID-19 pandemic has significantly disrupted our ways of working and thinking as evaluators. What would you say were the biggest challenges that you faced as an evaluator in the past 2 years?
Oh, that's a great question. So, in my work as an evaluator, most of my work is on the storytelling and reporting piece. And so, I think one of the challenges that I specifically have run up against is shifting power for whose story is told and how it is told. Because I think historically, there is data collected from communities and the people and folks we work with, and it is packaged and given back to the funders and the people that have traditionally held power and the systems that we work in. And so, what does that actually look like to start doing some culture change in our industry to shifting power where reporting priorities are actually centered in community rather than centered with funders or researchers or evaluators? And so, trying to advocate for that shift comes through in lots of small ways sometimes. It comes through in the graphs that we use, the actual deliverable products that we use to share our story and data, and really centering our key learning questions about sharing information back to the people we collected data from so that it's actually useful to them. So it's a challenge. I feel like it's not one person or even one actor in a larger network that can make this shift, but I've been happy to work with peers and really brainstorm and think creatively about ways to shift that power. So that's one of the challenges that I feel like has come up for me in my work.
And how exactly would you say that the pandemic has incited you or further encouraged you to envision shifting approaches in evaluation?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think the pandemic surfaced a lot of inequity that has been below the surface for a long, long time. And I think it highlighted some of the things that have were maybe easier to look past. And so I think people's attention, especially with in the United States, with the death of George Floyd and others, it really started to refocus people's attention around inequity that has been in our system for a very long time. And so people have started paying attention um, in newer ways. And so I think there's like a captive audience that maybe hasn't always been there with the pandemic. And I think that people have started to realize to actually do things differently and to support community. Like normal ways of doing things has had to shift and change. And so part of that is around data reporting and also the way that we collect data and being mindful about burden, especially put on the staff that we're working with and communities, because COVID put a lot of pressure on every single person, no matter where you're at in the system. And so thinking about our roles as evaluators to be partners in this work, to be helpful in thinking about burden is also just kind of another component that I've been thinking through.
And I think we can agree on the fact that embracing change is never easy. So what piece of advice would you offer to those seeking to apply this new paradigm shift?
Oh, that's a great question. What advice do I have for shifting power? I think one piece of advice is just be ready for a little bit of pushback. I think that there have been times when I feel really passionate about things, and it sometimes takes others that I may be working with some time to get on board with some of the things that I feel like are really central and priority. So I think one, just kind of being ready and expecting maybe pushback, or maybe not even pushback, but maybe folks not prioritizing the same things, and just being ready to be a longtime advocate for this work would be one piece of advice. And also just being open to learning. I feel like I learn new things about inequities in our system in ways that they come through in unintentional and intentional ways. And so I think opening yourself up to learning, I think, is also something that I try to do and would be a piece of advice I would give.
That is a really precious one, so thank you. Um, Perhaps we should now move towards your professional development workshop, if you agree.
Of course.
So speaking more specifically about it, what prompted you to propose a workshop on this particular topic?
Yeah, that's a really great question. So I think there's a lot of work out there around best practices for telling stories with data, around chart types and using color and icons effectively. I think there's also some growing bodies of work around equitable evaluation. And I took the challenge upon myself with some peers of mine to really brainstorm. I think storytelling with data, there's a lot of power that you have around whose story gets told and how and who's listening. And so I started to think really intentionally about the ways to be equitable in the stories that we tell. And so that's what really drove me to develop this workshop and to offer it for EES. And so some of the different learning objectives, things that I'm hoping people will learn if they come to this session, are things like ways to apply graphic design to enhance data visualization in simple implementable steps. And how can we make the products that we create to share our findings and share the information accessible to a lot of different people? Regardless of your background and know-how on reading data and interpreting graphs, and also framing findings in ways that identify equitable solutions, and kind of bringing in context and root causes in the way that we frame our data, rather than just one dimensional aspects of the way I think sometimes data gets shared. Thinking a little bit broadly about the history and multi-dimensional factors on the information we're sharing are some of the things that we'll be talking about in the workshop.
And for all those like me that are really, really excited to attend, could you briefly explain what attendants can expect from your professional development workshop?
Absolutely. I promise it'll be fun. So yeah, I'm going to kick things off with some background and just context sharing a little bit about the topic area. Some of the context is going to be around history and kind of best practices in just data storytelling, and some is around equitable practices. And then we're going to be merging the two together in a framework that I like to use that kind of leverages the use of narrative, data, and design all together. And so we're going to kind of move through those three segments of the framework. It's not even a framework, it's a way that I've organized some of the recommendations around equitable data storytelling. And so we're going to move through each of those bucket areas one at a time, and I'm going to share some like real life examples, like redesigns. We're going to have discussions in small groups, and there will be some worksheets for people to really dig into the content and start to practice and apply it to their own work.
And I'd like to ask you a personal question, if you allow me.
Of course.
What other topics to be discussed at the conference have captured your attention?
That's a really great question. It feels like this is actually my first evaluation conference since like before COVID times. So I feel like I'm just really excited to learn from others. I think there's a lot of really interesting topics around learning, specifically in learning systems. And there's a couple of different ones where people are bringing partners from across the spectrum outside of just their evaluation partners. So maybe even funder partners or folks working in the field. And so I'm excited. Some of the different sessions have those like different perspectives that are being intertwined into the speakers. And I'm really excited to see how the evaluation field is kind of broadening to inviting other groups that aren't maybe don't identify themselves primarily as evaluators into this space. So those are the things that are really intriguing me about the conference.
And now perhaps a word about the future and about youth. What future role do you see for young evaluators in the new post-pandemic world?
That's a great question. I feel like I feel like for me, I sometimes get opportunities to work with youth, and every single time I do, I'm inspired deeply. And I think that from my experience, thinking creatively and open-endedly and really challenging the systems that are already in place of this is the right way that we have to do things. I think youth have a really unique perspective and an opportunity to change the way that things may have been done to really actually rethink, is this serving the greater purpose of evaluation and learning? And what are new ways that we can be innovative and change some of the methods? So I think there's a lot of really amazing opportunities for youth to grow the evaluation field and to connect us with other sectors so that we don't become siloed in our work and that we can become connected to other actors in this space.
And if you were to recommend this career path to someone, what would be your advice?
Oh my gosh, that's a great question. I'm going to answer as a consultant because I run my own business, and I know not all evaluators do, but some evaluators do. And it's one of my favorite things. I love the work that I do. And I think especially doing evaluation work as an independent practitioner, there's an opportunity to really make your way with things and find things that feel really passionate and central to your core. And so my advice would be to find some time early in your career to try different things out. If you know you love evaluation, try different types of evaluation. Try doing it in different sectors, whether it's education or health, whether you're an internal evaluator or you're working for an external evaluator, and find your niche that like drives your passion. For me, that was data storytelling. And I really love being an independent consultant because it allows me to work across lots of different sectors, and I get to pick and choose like all the great projects that I work with. And so I think in the as an evaluation career, there's a lot of opportunity to make it fit your own lifestyle needs and interests. And so yeah, get excited, explore, figure out what you do and don't like, and craft a career that feels really right for you.
And in the same spirit, reflecting back on your career and possible lessons learned, are there any pitfalls that you think young evaluators should be aware of and try to avoid?
Question. The only pitfall that I have found myself run up against, and even still, is it's easy to get intimidated. There are a lot of amazing people out there that are doing really cool things. And one of the things I always try to center myself in is to be inspired by others and to uplift others. And I think that orienting ourselves to this space by a commitment to learning and hearing more, and if there are new ways that things are being done, to like invite that learning into your own understanding and to not let yourself get tripped up by being intimidated or by imposter syndrome and those things that often can happen when you're younger in your career. There were times when that happened for me, and I look back and I'm like, I should have been more confident. Like I had it right. I had great things to say. And so I think it's a balance of always being open to learning and also being confident in the way that you move and orient in your career. So I don't know if there's any one right huge nugget of information, but at least just recognizing that it's really a balance, and just not letting your feelings of intimidation get in the way of really showing up and being excited about different areas of work.
Well, Jenny, thank you for your energy and thank you for sharing this with us. I really love discussing with you. For all those who wish to find you back at Copenhagen and follow your workshop, just a reminder that it will take place on Tuesday, so the 7th, and I'm really looking forward to see you there.
You too. Thank you so much. It was wonderful chatting with you.
Thank you.
Alrighty, see you in Copenhagen.